Introduce you and I'll introduce
Can I introduce
myself.
myself?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sandy Sado.
And I'm Julian Sado. We decided to make this video to talk about our experience at the Unlimited Retreat with Joe Dispenza, but do it as a couple because we went as a couple. So we wanted to give you guys something to look at if it's something you're thinking about. I don't think it was anything like a retreat. I don't see anything retreatful in that moment.
I
That
like
was,
that word retreatful.
yeah, it was intense. But for me, one of the things that I really picked up from this was that how much of a layer of on stage you are in the world. And I think you had mentioned how it was kind of like we were both for the first time and I don't know ever that we were just ourselves and we weren't like focusing on anything else. Did you feel that?
For me, I loved the feeling of having, as you said, I don't know if you use the word filters, but having no Sandy the mom, Sandy the wife, Sandy the worker, Sandy the this, or the to-do list. I have to do this today. I got to do that today. It was so refreshing to go in there just with nothing, as Joe Dispenza says, the nothingness, because every single day he took us to that space with the nothingness. And it was, and I think, in my perspective as a couple, getting outside of myself for that moment and just experiencing it with you. And it just felt so wonderful to step aside and just, first of all, observe you like I've never observed you before. Just observed you with no filters, no history past, and just to see your, oh man, you were glowing. He was beautiful.
No, you were glowing too.
He was beautiful.
She was glowing too. I'm the one that invited you to read Joe Dispenza years ago because I was the first in our family to get wind of him through to his book, no, the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? And I was a manager and I was like I'm so engrossed in that I ended up speaking to all the other managers and leaders in the company about it, and they thought I was weird because I'm speaking energy, I'm speaking about vibration, and that was years ago. And so I've been reading his books and studying his stuff for years and using it in a lot of my business stuff. But it was really weird because the experience it firsthand. Yeah, you're right. It was an opportunity to kind of let go and just not be so cerebral and to be more like a child. And I think we both glue. I think we resonated. You glue. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people kept coming to me and telling me how much power you had and how how you were going. So I think we just really just had fun.
Well, I think it's amazing when one can get outside of themselves and so focus on how do I look to others? What do I need to be to others? And putting on those masks that we do every day to get into the world. And it's so interesting how big of souls we each are and how much potential we have when we just take off and come in, I don't know, for lack of term, just nakedly. And I think that that's what we experienced with one another. However many days it took for us to kind of, settle in and relax and trust the environment.
Yeah.
It was really nice to just, for the first time, I want to say the first time in my ever existence with this man, I felt that we were in a state of presence and allowing the other person to just, we were able to step aside and let the other person glow. There was no filters and all those little idiosyncrasies that I won't get into that we carry on a daily basis. It was just kind of like letting him step aside and letting him glow and really appreciating the beauty that he is and the greatness that he is. It was wonderful as oh, I got chills just thinking about how much I just revered him in that moment. I was just in awe and in so much love. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you. The first day, everybody was kind of just walking and trying to find their space. You didn't know what to expect, and that's another thing. There's no really agenda, at least online. So you don't know how to dress. You don't know how to do. Is there a dinner? You don't know if you should be bringing nice clothes. And so we overpacked. I think we went and bought suitcases for the event because it's 7 days. So we were like divas carrying big suitcases for the whole week. And it was really was sweat clothing for the whole week. So there's no reason to bring a bunch of nice clothing unless you plan on doing something at the end. But it's over like around 8:30 at night. And so by the time you're done, you're done. Yeah.
Because I know for you, you had talked about this guy, Joe Dispenza,
Mhm.
for many years, what the bleep, whatever year that was. And I remember seeing that movie and thought it was really cool, but I don't think the time for my heart and soul, it didn't resonate the same way it did for him. And I know that, soon after he bought all these books of this guy, Joe Dispenza. And I always said, man, it was always like Joe, Joe, Joe in our house. Everything was always about what Joe had to say. It was like a man crush, a boy crush, actually.
Oh, no, don't go there.
But it is all good, though, right? It's all good. He had such a fascination, and he revered him so highly, and so I always listened, with just curiosity of what this whole science thing is. But then I think it really hit home because I ended up with cancer at a few years after this whole Joe Dispenza thing. And I know still yet at that time, he would speak that stuff into me, the body and the healing and all of that stuff. But for my journey, when I got the first cancer, I realized through that experience that I like the saying from Cruz. I was living, but I wasn't living. I wasn't living, but I just wasn't dying. And I was going through the motions of life, but not experiencing life. I was just filled with so much anxiety, depression, fear, trauma, that overused word trauma, and just the everyday minutia of life. And so at some point in time in my life, I just stuck my head in the sand and I just checked out, is what I really did. I just chose to check out on a soul level. And so when I got that cancer, I think you introduced me also to Bruce Lipton, who speaks a lot about the cells and epigenetics and all that. And that was kind of the little moment where I was putting the pieces of the body, the power of the body and the power of the mind together. So I got through the first, I still wasn't into Joe the way he was, but I know that he was influencing me, planting a lot of those wonderful seeds. And then I got through that experience and I was really discovering meditation, but it wasn't like Joe's meditation. It was more on a spiritual, the Western civilization where you have that pingy pongy music, the river in the background, and you're just kind of like, So I was working on that. And that was great at the time. I loved it. It was relaxing and it helped me. Then we got to a point in life where I got cancer for the second time. And I think that was monumental for me because talking about the power of the mind and the body to follow, OMG, this is the moment that I really discovered the power of my mind. And I think that was when the whole Joe Dispenza thing came into my understanding of the power of the thoughts and the power of the mind and the body, but most especially the emotions and how the body follows. So that was a very monumental time for me. Well, I think just coming back from sharing that experience together with you, I think you asked me earlier what my experience, if I was going to name one word, and my word was, it was a rebirth. And not only, we went in as a couple, but you're coming in and sharing the experience, but you're also doing it separately. And so for me, what you're describing is almost like we can use the word reset, a rebirth to our marriage that was once 27 years worth of a lot of, we'll just call it baggage for lack of term, but we all know what that is, right? It's just filled up with life and children and so on and so forth. And experiencing this as a couple gave us an opportunity to come back and just really rebirth the marriage. Take away all of that stuff and come in and come home and do it I'll use quotes, right way. There is no right and wrong, but do it in a way where that is what focus on the intentions that we want to experience in our marriage.
I think Joe does it really well. He makes you look at yourself as nothing. And so you're actually completely not thinking about your past. You're not thinking about what you've been through. You're not thinking about your identity, your titles, your wealth. You're just a energy. And because of that, you can reset, as you said, into a new personality without looking at it, comparing it to your old personality.
But I think for the experience of, I think the key that we're emphasizing here is that we came in as a couple and we shed ourselves for that timeline. We committed and had the intention to go into this together and experiencing for the first time something we both have never experienced, and taking all of the knowledge that we've had from Joe Dispenza prior and getting right and just peeling down to the core of everything that we've learned from him. And in doing so, as I describe it, I had my own personal rebirth. But in doing so, and you know, Michael Jackson's song, Change Starts by Looking in the Mirror, when you're able to get to the deep core root and change within yourself, right? Then all of your perceptions and all of your reality that you're seeing becomes a whole new reality. As Joe Dispenza says, your personality creates your personal reality. So by getting off the grid and just coming in pure without the judgments of our past experiences and all the garbage that we sometimes feel in life, it was just refreshing to allow ourselves the ability to just love and connect as a couple in a way that I don't think we've ever truly had.
We put this in a weird perspective of going on vacation. You go on vacation to get away from it all, right? You sit at the pool, might get a massage. We did none of that. So it was like, and I feel closer in this regard than I would if I went to like a resort to like sit and lay out and because it was like boot camp together, but on a spiritual level. Do you want to explain the walking meditation?
Yeah, I really liked the walking meditation because I liked that his whole concept is we're really good at going into a dark closet. That's what I do. And put on the music and get into your space. But as soon as we open our eyes, we're constantly being reminded of who we are. And we're just constantly reminded of our personalities and the things that we need to do and all that sort of thing. And so his concept, what he learned through his experience, is how is it you take those meditative experiences, but you do it during the day when you open your eyes. And so he created these amazing walking meditations, which I've never tried. I heard about it, but I had never tried it. And it was pretty powerful because, you know, he does put you in a state and you're out in public. And just the idea that you know that people can see you and they can video you. And we probably look like a bunch of weirdos. I know we look like a bunch of weirdos and zombies. And so you have to just kind of get out of that space of being so self-conscientious. And I really loved that when he takes you through that experience and you're going into the nothingness, you literally are shedding who you are so that you don't have a conscientiousness of you forget that you're in public. You forget that you're outside. You are in that space of nothingness. And then what's really cool is then he says, okay, open your eyes. And then he has this words, and then he says, now walk. And walk with that intention. Walk as the creator. Walk as a manifester. And boy, I tell you what, going from nothing to all of a sudden being the creator, I just remember, and that's where the word rebirth came into my thought process, was I was reborn again. I allowed myself to literally dispose of all of the past me that I ever have been. And let's get one thing straight. All of the programs that I've ever downloaded into this body and being were not programs that I chose. It's just what life gave me. And to be able to get outside of that, and then, you know what? It's my choice now. I open my eyes. I get to choose who I want to be, how I want to feel, what experiences I want to have. That was incredibly powerful for me. And that's where I come up with the idea of like this experience. It's a rebirth. It's out with the old and in with the new. And it's exciting, very exciting.
It does a really amazing job combining the science into the spiritual. And I say spiritual because it really isn't spiritual. It's quantum, and which is energy. So it's not as woo-woo as it was we would define it as. It sounds like it, but when you combine the science to it, it is quantum physics at its core. And he gives you such a lesson in quantum physics that if I explain it, it's going to sound spiritual. And that's what's cool about quantum physics, is that it is spiritual, because spirit is energy. So it's the same thing, but we have to get rid of that dogma.
I guess when you said the word anatomy, I loved when they were showing the human anatomy, the cadaver of the heart. And this goes into the breathing experience and the very cool experience that one can feel with their bodies. I loved that they showed the heart when they opened it up, because we don't even know how amazing it is, but it's wrapped up. It's one big piece of flesh, and it's just wrapped up into this beautiful shape of a heart. So this gentleman, whoever he was, opens it up and shows you the heart. But anyway, he's showing you how beautiful the heart is and all the different valves. Then they went even further to show you the brain. And that was pretty fascinating, because the same gentleman took a human brain and he sliced it and dissected it right in half and showed you the two halves. And what was so interesting is how the heart connects to that brain through these major valves that I don't remember the names of them.
Nerve is one of them.
Yes, and it was super cool, because when you dissected the brain and you looked at where the pineal is, as well as the valve that goes up to the pineal gland, he describes it as a vagina, the vulva of a vagina. So you're looking at this amazing entry, and it reaches to what the pineal gland looks like, a female clitoris. And the idea is that when you're able, the connection between the heart and the mind, when you're able to do these amazing breathing exercises that he has us do, you're taking that spinal fluid, and this is all part of the human anatomy. This is what the body can do. If you breathe in a certain way, and I can't do the techniques here, but what he teaches you is how to take your spinal fluid from the base of your spine, and you're squeezing it up and breathing up. And what you're doing is you're shooting that, squirting, as he called it, your spinal fluid through that valve that looks like a vagina. And if it's done properly, it shoots and squirts, and it hits the clitoris, which is the pineal gland.
The crystals. This is no longer made for kids, obviously.
It's called a brain orgasm. And then to show the anatomy and how the anatomy matches, I can understand why he calls it an orgasm. But when those crystals do fire off, you do have a mystical experience. And I was very fortunate to have one of those experiences. You know, we were doing those breathing exercises like on the second or third day. And as you're squeezing the spinal fluid all the way to the top of the brain, he has you hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. And I just remember this incredible, powerful, bright neon light that just spun at the top of my head. And it just held there for a period of time I don't even know. And then he asks us to relax and release. And as when I was doing so, I was almost like I was going backwards in this grayish, cloudy tunnel. And it was like I was leaving the body. And you do feel an emotional euphoria. There is like this like emotional, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's indescribable. And when I came back into the body, that's when my face was twitching. I was crying, but I wasn't emotional. My body was doing its own thing. My body was having a mind of its own, as Joe even used that word. It was after I had released and came back into the body, my body was just shaking and twitching in places I had no control. And the crying was just kind of, it's like the air was just knocked out of me. And I was just in this euphoric feeling. So that also reminded me of the laughing experiment. That one was a good one too.
That was very interesting. There's so many experiments. We can go on for hours but we don't want to, but we don't want to give away all of Joe's like stories and stuff. True. We're so focused on ourselves, and he has this thing where he does this healing, which really helps you release your concept of self and to be a service to others. And by doing that, you actually serve yourself even greater, because you can heal yourself by focusing on healing somebody else. And it was really interesting to see 2,000 people come together to focus on people that have physical ailments and to be completely focused on them with love, not with, let me fix you, but just in a genuine love. That was to orchestrate that many people to be unionized in a way that is focused on others and to be genuine was just, I don't want to give too much secrets away, but man, that was beyond powerful. And I saw, and you saw some miracles happen. And I would tell you right now, we're talking biblical miracles happen. So, and that's where it gets a little freaky, because I know if I say that, people are already having their opinion, but physical, spiritual, biblical miracles.
But just going back of what you said, the way that what he was teaching us is, this is not you. You are not healing. Get out of yourself. He made that very clear. Get out of the way. You are not doing healing. You're just a conduit from the source, and using this electric, amazing, beautiful body, and just allowing the love, connecting the mind and the heart with the crowd, with the 2,000 people, and in oneness, one heart, one mind, and with source, just allowing that energy and that love and that healing to come through your body to heal the other person. You weren't focused on the person. You didn't even know what their ailments were. You didn't know who you're going to stand above. You didn't know what group you were going to be in. You didn't know who you're going to be sitting next to. Why? Because you were in the nothingness. You were outside of yourself. You weren't coming in with an ego or an attitude of, oh, I'm going to go do a healing. It had nothing to do with you. And it was only there to be connected as a unit, to send love and healing love and harmony to these people that needed healing. And then what was really cool is the energy that once you finish the healing and you bring it back to yourself was incredibly powerful. So beautiful.
I would suggest, if you have a vacation and you're spending money on it, this will be one that would separate any other kind of getaway with your spouse, because it definitely isn't about you enjoying each other. It's about learning how to enjoy and love and live. And then you come home with a whole different perspective on what life is. Coming back home.
That's a good question. How are you coming back home, Julian?
It's you're off the island. You feel like you're separated from something that was so different, and you almost feel like you were breathing better there. It's like you didn't know how much smog you have until you get to a space that has no smog, and then you're like, wow, I can really smell air different here. And then you go back to the smog, and that's what it feels like. It just feels like there's a little more reminder of past, and you have to really work hard at it. And one of the things he does suggest is don't give up the meditations. Now, we did a lot per day, and the focus is to not give up that, maybe not as much, but have a regimen, like stay committed to spending time meditating, because it's the reminder that puts you back in that state. And so I would say that's like anything, when you go on vacation, it seems like it's more stressful coming home after. I would say that was definitely as soon as we walked in the door, it was like, ooh,
Well, I think it's everything that he talks about. You open your eyes, and every part of your senses, whatever you hear, the smell of your house, the look of your bedroom, the work that you have to do, the dog, the spouse. It's a constant reminder. Yes. I said that with love, though.
I'm editing that part.
With love.
Oh, okay.
Just, coming back to the same environment and taking that experience, getting off the island and coming back to the reality of the everyday life is, and I think that's why he emphasizes the key is, it's okay that you have those emotions and you have those moments, but it's just how long you stay there. And his whole thing is, don't give up. Never lose faith, and don't give up. It's just through persistence of going into that nothingness daily, and always going into the space of nothingness, which is where you become nothing in order to be something. And that is the only way.
I was questioning if I should say this or not, but I want to, because there's something to know. You will be doing a lot of standing, a lot of sitting, and a lot of lying on the floor. So if that's your quirks, make sure you know that there's no empathy on that, because it's you thinking about the body. And I would say the first couple of days, I was actually continuously thinking about it. And ironically, I didn't have the right inserts in my shoes. And so my feet were throbbing, but to be transparent, it got easier and easier as the days went on. And I was able to, and I was pleasantly surprised, I was able to control my own pain through thinking. And that's another lesson I learned. So I was grateful for the pain because it taught me about my own abilities. Because sometimes I was say I can't do this anymore, but actually there was moments where I said that to myself and I said, nope, keep going. And I pushed through it. So that was an interesting lesson there too. So that was a great experience to have a discomfort and be able to push past it. Was another experience that I don't think we brought up, but I think that's something to take note of as well.
Well, and especially when you think about those people that are coming there with some serious discomforts and some serious ailments. And for me, that was humbling, my tiny little pains, and I'm not minimizing my pains, but it's very humbling being around others who are there, putting their pain and discomforts and situations aside to experience that. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
But yeah, overcoming the body.
Yeah. And speaking of your epiphany and what you're taking back, I think someone tagged you as the skipping meditator.
Oh, yeah.
They found you skipping in the walking meditation.
I think there was somebody that was saying I skipped, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to create. Sorry, Dr. Joe. Who needs walking meditations when you can skip like a child in life?
I think that would be hilarious and fun. So
I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. If you watched this long, thanks for being a part. Again, Julian and Sandy Sado, we just wanted to share as a couple because we think that we met a lot of people there that actually were there without their spouses because their spouse wasn't into it. We actually met some people that were there with their spouse, but their spouse went as a protector per se because they didn't know what was going on, but stayed in the room or did their own thing, worked or whatever while their spouse was out there by themselves. That to me, you're missing a great opportunity because it was really an opportunity to experience something completely off the cuff, not scripted, at least in our minds, and a way to really branch into something completely new together. And anything new or for the first time, that is really, really impactful to the body. And so that's really what this was for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
How was your first with Dr.?
I had a lot of firsts at Dr. Joe's.
But that didn't sound right.
And that was one of them, doing it with you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Goodbye.